All right, test audio. Test audio on the AirPods. See if I can hear this. No. Testing, testing, testing. All right, this works. Okay, so today we got a deal in Oneonta, Alabama. Let me see if I can zoom out so you guys can see the details as we go through it. So this is a sub-to deal, which means that we will be taking over the payments for this deal subject to the existing financing. The address is 806 Cotton Ave, Oneonta, Alabama, 35121. $405 cash. Let's see. 4 bed, 2 bath, 2265 square feet, ARV $280,000. The underlying mortgage is $257,850. Interest rate 4.5%, PITI 1560. The entry fee is $28,000 plus closing costs plus transaction costs, no HOA. LTR estimate 2100 2200. Interesting. All right. Well, let's take a quick look. So, Googled the address, and here we are. We have the home. For the most part, looks like it's in a suburban area. Floors look great, paint looks great. Don't think we need to do much there. Fridge might be a little old, but that's okay. The rest of the home, some carpet, that's okay. It's like a shed, some carpet. Maybe you want to replace the carpeting with some LVP, but not necessarily a must do since the house looks like it's in pretty good shape. Let's do a quick Google Street View. I just pull up on Redfin, and it looks like it's in a pretty suburban area. It doesn't look like a bad area at all. Okay, so that is what it is. Let's go and check the top hap crime score. So when we go to tophap.com, for those of you that are looking at Instagram, you guys can always go to YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Kent_HE. That's where we go live every single day analyzing deals. And when you go to top hap, you go to the neighborhood section, you go to crime score. It says 128. That's actually kind of high. I'm not seeing anything that's like screaming bad area to me, but you never know. Sometimes in smaller populations, maybe that's why. I don't know. This looks like a pretty good neighborhood to me. I mean, I don't really see anything. Just kids playing around, playing with school and everything. Yeah, so I mean, it's near church. I see a lot of like dumpsters and stuff. No, not really. I mean, all right. I'll just put that to the side right now and we'll figure it out. So what we do on every single property is we want to go and grab the FMR, which stands for fair market rents. When you go to fair market rents, you can go into this area called HUD FMR, and if we click on access to small area FMRs, look up FY 2024, then you're able to select the state and then the county by which you can look up the fair market rents by zip code, by bedroom count. You can see that the 3-bedroom rent is $1,240 and the 4-bedroom is $1,350. So we're going to note that down. We'll put that in our Excel file. The next thing you want to do is you want to go and grab the market rent, which you are able to get by going to affordablehousing.com, going to the owner section, going to the market rent estimator, and plug in the address. Now, the interesting part about this one is that you can kind of see, usually if you have looked at the past couple of lives that we have done where we analyze some properties, you can see that usually there is a X number of units within a certain number of mile radius for 25 units. You can see that this only has 4 units for rentals in this area where there are 4 bedrooms. That tells me that one, there is a either big lack of supply of rentals or there just aren't enough population or demand that wants that property or wants to rent in this area. Hence why there's so little 4 bedrooms. Let's see if there's anything for 3 bedrooms. Just double check. Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. 13, 15, and within the 17-mile radius, there's 25 units. So maybe there is some demand, but also not that many rentals available in this market. So that's gonna be interesting to kind of keep in mind when you're calling the housing authority. Yesterday, I talked to another community member where they were looking at a property in Texarkana, and they called the public housing authority right away to figure out what the demand is, how many outstanding vouchers do they have to signal how much demand there is and whether or not he's going to be able to fill that property up right away. That could be something that you do here for whatever housing authority is governing over this area. So just to kind of quickly recap, what we've done so far is we looked at one, the general photos of the deal and got a general condition and gauge of the property. I wouldn't could you replace the flooring? Yeah, but you don't have to. I personally would, but I would probably just set aside some money to repaint the entire house because you definitely don't need to redo the flooring in the house. 'Cause it looks like it's in pretty good condition. Then what we did is we did a street view, looked fine. We got the crime index score from tophap.com, and then we went to HUD's website, HUD, Googled FMR, and that's where we got the fair market rents by zip code by bedroom count. From that point onwards, we also grabbed the market rents by going to affordablehousing.com and then grabbing the market rents and putting it into the right bedroom counts, which should be 4 bedrooms. And this is the market rent that we're going to use to compare the 1566 to compare to FMR. So you can see that the fair market rent here is 1350 on HUD's website. Even though that the market rent is 1599, you're not going to be able to charge above what the fair market rent is unless you're in a very high cost or high cost of living area where sometimes the local public housing authority might say, hey, we, because you're in New York City, we'll pay 120% of the FMR as an example, right? So, hey, Magnolia, yeah, we're going to keep comping, man. It's Friday night. We're going to keep going. I promise to stay consistent. So we are going to stay consistent. Neighborhood was okay. I didn't like when I did a street view, I really didn't notice that much. The crime score at 128, it's like slightly above what I would want for this area, but hey, if it's usually even in cities like Detroit where it's street by street, that's usually how you know whether or not that is gonna be a potentially good area. So we'll just figure it out from there. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go and share my Excel file so we can plug in all the deal details that we just went through. Let me stop sharing the screen, and then we'll move over to the Excel file. Stop and share. And I apologize for the back and forth. Usually I'm able to share the entire screen, but traveling this week, so I don't have access to my regular desktop. So I'm going to share this desktop. Boom. That should bring it a little bit closer. So let's go through the deal details that we had earlier. We had a 257,850 underliner. So that's 257,850. Interest rate 4.5% subto loan. The PITI is 1560. So I'm going to go to the property tax section and equals 1560 minus the principal minus the interest. And that's going to give me my remaining taxes and insurance number. And because I'm going to turn this into a rental property, I typically add an extra $30 to my monthly insurance number. Okay. Now, what's my other details that I'm able to get from this property? $280,000. Let's see. Entry fee is 28 grand, includes assignment or best offer. So I'm gonna do equals $28,000 right here. I'm gonna assume let's just assume it's like a $5,000 assignment fee. So I'm gonna do 23,000 and I'm gonna put in 5,000. So my asking price is gonna be equal to the cash to seller or the down payment plus my underlying loan. So that's gonna be 288.50. So just that's how I usually calculate what I'm going to make pay for this property by adding the equity or sell cash to seller plus the underlying loan because that's really the total consideration for what you're going to play on this one, right? So then we're going to plug in the numbers here, and you can see here that I've already plugged in the FMR for 35121 for a 3 bed, which is 1240, and then the 4 bedroom rent at 1350. So I have $1350 as my market rent right here, and maybe I'll even put in the 1599 later just to kind of go through these scenarios. Okay. All right, so let's go through the rehab. So I'm gonna go pull my rehab calculator, and this property is 2,000. Where's my square footage? 2,265. So I'm gonna assume that I'm gonna need to paint the entire place. I'm assuming because someone's living there, I don't need to do any additional water heater improvements on this property. So I want to put in 350 for $3 a square foot to paint the place. And I might say I'll probably just do about 300 square feet of LVP just to replace some of the carpet because I don't know what the condition is. I am usually setting aside 1,500 bucks for the roof just in case there's some issues with the roof, like a little patching, a little repair that's needed. Because sometimes you're never able to see exactly everything that you need to do on the property. Is there any landscaping? Yeah. While I'm renovating the property, I also want to clean the landscaping uh, on this property. So boom, 500 bucks right there. That gets me to a total rehab amount of 11,195, and then I always add a 20% contingency for that oh crap budget. So now I'm at total of 13,434, which you can see that 14,434 kind of rolls to the front page right here. And again, for those of you that want to see the full screen version, this is on youtube.com/@Kent_HE. Okay. So right now I gotta plug in my monthly rent. So like I said, I'm gonna use 1350, right? Because there's always a comparison between the FMR and the market rent. The housing authority typically has a test. It's called the rent reasonableness test, which means that in a situation where the FMR is higher than the market rent, the housing authority says you cannot charge more rent to a tenant above market rent simply because they're a voucher holder for the obvious reasons. But in a case where the FMR is lower than the market rent, I am going to underwrite using the FMR, which is 1350 in the scenario, because it is the lower of the two numbers compared to the market rent. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, the problem is after I plug in the PITI and insurance, I'm setting aside 10% for maintenance on the home, just to assume that eventually something breaks, right? The roof, the HVAC, the water heater, something will eventually need to get replaced. And that's not true cash flow to you. Eventually, you have to set aside money to make these repairs because things come up and happen all the time. So you got to set these things aside. Okay. So at property manager 8%, and then we have vacancy at 3%. This is now resulting in a negative cash flow of negative 523.50 a month, and this is a negative 13.35% cash on cash return, assuming whatever it was. The problem is that the PITI is so high on this property that even if you adjust a rehab or assignment, you're not going to make it a deal. Now, at 1599, what if I turn this into a market rent tenant instead of a affordable housing tenant? Well, in that scenario, at 1599, you're still losing 326 bucks, which still is not a deal on this property. So this is a negative 8.3% cash and cash return. Again, still not a deal. Well, according to the deal post, they're saying that the long-term rental estimate per the property management company in the area is 2,100. Okay. Sometimes we take that with a grain of salt, but hey, maybe it is 2,100. So let's do one more scenario. What if it is 2,100 bucks? Well, at 2,100 bucks, this is now a cash flow positive of 69 bucks, and my cash and cash return is 1.8, assuming the same purchase price. Well, if you were able to get 2,100 bucks, you would be cash flow positive, but this is usually the trap, right? Sometimes folks will see that the PITI is 1560 plus, well, 1590 in the scenario, and you'll see that the rent is 2,100. When you subtract those two numbers, they think they're generating a positive cash flow, but they forget all these other expenses. They forget that you have to make some repairs eventually at some point. They forget that you want to hire some property managers. Some folks will want to self-manage their properties, but if you think about why we're in real estate and why do we do this, chances are you're doing this for financial freedom. You want to have more options. You want to have more freedom of time to spend with your family or kids. Well, if you don't underwrite with property management in place and one day you want to step away from the job, you can't because the deal doesn't work anymore. So it's unwise to not underwrite a deal without property management company because you have to respect the business, and the business is that you eventually have to hire a property management company. So that's just my 2 cents right there. Well, at 2,100 bucks, well, how else can I make this a deal? Right now, my rehab is 13,434. The only thing I would do right now is like, well, what if I play around with the rehab? What if my rehab is actually like a third of what I estimated? well, if at 4478, does that improve my cash and cash return criteria to a level where it's still reasonable? No, because it's only a 2.17%, right? And these are the scenarios that you can play with over the course of time so that you figure out at what point is this thing a deal, quote unquote. So your cash flow staying the same, even though your capital outlay is a little bit lower, it doesn't work. So again, this is what we did, right? We used a Section 8 FMR. This was the scenario where it was market rent on affordablehousing.com. And then this was market rent per post, right? And the person that posted the deal said you can get 2,100 bucks. But in all four scenarios, this was not a deal. For me, this is not a deal, so I can kind of move on from it. But the whole point of why we do this, right, is so that you guys can get a lot of practice on analyzing creative finance deals, conventional on the market deals, and this ultimately helps you create that undeniable track history for yourself to build your own confidence. But also, if you ever post this on YouTube on your own, and this is what I encourage all of you to do, look at the same address, same deal, using the same calculator. And if you guys want to copy the calculator, just DM me on Instagram at investor10key and I'll send you the calculator. I've been very fortunate and have been given this calculator from other folks that were so giving, and I was able to kind of tweak these calculators to meet what I need and how I underwrite deals. And I'm happy to share that with you because this is how you guys are able to get practice, create uh, a great track record for yourself to analyze deals every day so that you know if a deal came across your table and slapped you in the face, you can at least recognize the deal when it does come across your table. And from that point onwards, that's how you might eventually raise capital. Now, this is not a solicitation for investments. This is purely for information and entertainment purposes only. But one of the biggest excuses that I hear from folks is, hey, I don't have the money, or this is the rich person's game. Well, if you ever want to go ask an investor to invest with you, they're going to ask you, how do you know this is the deal? And the only way for you to prove it is through a track record of you doing this consistently every day. This is why I've been doing it live every single day with all of you. And this is how we create great habits of analyzing a deal every single day. And I love doing this, and I thank you all for tuning in and watching the videos because without people like you, I would have never had the home that I grew up in. So thank you so much for caring about affordable housing. I go live in our affordable housing and real estate investment community every single day, going live, providing value to folks. And I hope this continues to be helpful. So if this was, just leave a comment on the YouTube page or leave me a 5-star review on our podcast on Spotify or Apple. It's called Affordable Housing and Real Estate Investing. That's our podcast name. I would really appreciate it because we've had some haters that have left 1-star reviews simply because they might have misunderstood what affordable housing is, when in reality, it is just hardworking folks just like my parents who just needed a launching pad to get back on their feet and provide a great home for their kids. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for what you guys are doing. Thank you so much for putting in the work and learning and practice and watching the content every single day. So, without further ado, have an amazing Friday, everybody. I will be back here again tomorrow doing another live, and we're going to stay consistent together. So, when you comp a property, tag me on Instagram. I would love to see you guys in your stories doing it, doing the thing, and I will happily reshare it. Thank you so much and have an amazing, amazing day. And we are out.